Thank you all for joining us tonight. Please feel free to continue enjoying your meals. I want to go ahead and get started. I don't have too long of a presentation tonight, but I do have some important updates for you all. To my staff, please don't let me forget to do this at the end.
Swallow the microphone.
Oh, you can't hear me well? No? Okay.
Better.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you that I've never met, my name is Jackie Metcalf, and I'm the founder and executive director of Texas Health and Environment Alliance, which grew out of the San Jacinto River Coalition, which is where most of us got to know one another over the years. So tonight we are going to just have a really brief presentation. The first thing that I want to talk to you all about, hopefully you got an agenda on your way in. It looks a little different than it usually does because it has a list of cancer types. And so we'll just go ahead and dive right into that update. Many of you over the years have filled out our health survey, and we take those cancer types and we give those to Texas Department of State Health Services, not your information, but the cancer types, and ask them to study our rates of cancer here for the cancers that people are concerned about. And so they finally, after years of most of you sending them letters, they finally agreed to do an updated study. So the last study that we did with the state covered a very large area. It's the map here that you can see. And this circle here indicates the waste pits. And you can see the river follows this line. Here's the bend. This is Highlands, where we are right now. And when they studied the 17 types of cancer back in 2014 that we most commonly saw, they found 14 of them at abnormally high rates. And many residents were unhappy that the data had lagged so far behind. So Texas Department of State Health Services agreed to do an updated study. Rather than going back to when the cancer registry started, they're simply doing an addition to the study that was done before. It's going to pick up in 2013, where the data from the previous study stopped. Now, we had some new cancer types that you all have reported, and so that's what's on the agenda. In the column on the right-hand side, it goes onto the back of the paper. On the column on the right is what we asked them to study. The column on the left, under column A, is what their database recognizes that cancer as. And so it might look a little different when we, for example, let's see, the brain cancer. It's, unless you've had it or your loved one has had it, you might not recognize that as brain cancer. And so I wanted to show y'all the difference because we're anticipating this study to be released any day now. We were told it was going to be released in late summer. Since then, if I need a holder, I can. Sorry, y'all. Please give me some grace tonight. I do have both my kids. Willing to hold her if I need to. But lost track there. But nonetheless, I have emailed them consistently, and now it's on a weekly basis ever since late summer. Once it started getting into late August, early September, I started asking, what do you define as late summer? Because, we're turning into fall real quick. So every week I've been emailing them asking, and they are telling me that the study is in executive review. Last time our study, this study here, was in an executive review, the state tried to squash it. And thank God the toxicologist who wrote it said, you're not publishing all of that work if you don't publish my data as is, as I created the data. And so we're waiting. It's in that phase, and any time now they're going to be releasing the more detailed report, but then also a front and back one-pager that is supposed, as they say, supposed to be easy for most of us to be able to understand what the findings were. I have no idea what they were, and we're highly anticipating that. So you'll definitely want to pay attention to our emails in the coming weeks. We have several big updates that we're anticipating, so please stay tuned, but we should be getting some data from 2013 to 2021 for all of the cancer types outlined here. These two lists are segmented into children and all ages, and hopefully soon we'll have that data. All right, so today we're primarily going to be talking about the northern waste pit and the sand separation area up here. The southern waste pit was remediated as outlined in the record of decision down to 10 feet. That concluded earlier this year. And so right now, we're still really in the thick of making sure they clean up that northern site that's in the river. So I want to go ahead and show you, just first of all, an aerial overview, a more detailed look at that northern pit. What you see sticking up out of the river is not all of it. Most of you probably know that. And what they're proposing is outlining the structure with this double cofferdam wall and then excavating the material within it. Last time we all met, we talked a lot about the technical, about all of the details that were produced in the 100% design from the responsible parties. I'm not going to go into as much detail in this meeting, but I'm going to go over what has happened since we met last and some of the brief details. So on July 17th, the waste pit's responsible parties submitted a 100% design for the cleanup to the EPA. We reviewed those documents, thousands, tens of thousands, I think even over 100,000 pages of technical documents. My team and I reviewed them and submitted the most intense and lengthy comments and questions ever before to the EPA. Never mind, I'll spare the joke. On October 25th, fast forward, on October 25th, the EPA submitted their comments to the responsible parties. In those comments, they incorporated many of the things that we asked, and a lot of that was your concerns. Things in the last time we met, things we had talked about, like what happens when the truck leaves the site and it hasn't been cleaned on the inside, and then the trucking company hires a third-party company to clean that. Does that person know they should be protected or what they might come in contact with? So a lot of the things were really carried over. And my team went through the comments from the EPA on the design and recognized a lot of them were what we asked about. So that was a really nice sign to see. So the not so nice thing to see was that the EPA at all responded with comments rather than just simply taking the site over. We've been going back and forth on this item alone for well over a year. The EPA had told us they had authority to take over if they weren't satisfied, yet they did not. So they commented and have given the responsible parties until November 25th to address the comments and resubmit a design. We're going to go through a couple of those things that they're pushing back on. But overall, the agency submitted 138 comments in total on that 100% design. Now, y'all know I don't usually have a lot of text, but I'm going to have a fair amount of text on these next few slides. So one of the items on the northwest corner, they were asking for clarification. The EPA was expressing that the boundaries that they were outlining were not consistent, And they felt that there could be problems in ensuring safety and ensuring it was all clean, it was all clear. And so they were asking for more clarification on what is called the decision units. The next item, request for supporting submittals from the remedial contractors. There were numerous big items in the design reports that they were leaving up to the remedial contractor to decide. And we were not comfortable with that at all. There were some really big items. And so the EPA outlined the items and said, these have to go through us for approval. If you leave them to the remedial contractor, they still come back to EPA for approval. So that was nice to see that they picked up on that as well. The next item is that, there was a concern with the monitoring program not being up to date with the timeline. And that by the time this cleanup is complete, the southern site will have gone through 2 5-year reviews. That's daunting. So what that means, the southern site was cleaned up this year. It was only cleaned up to 10 feet below ground surface. So that means there was likely waste left deeper. Because it's unknown, they're monitoring the site for 5 years to see how the environment acts. What is still there? Does anything come up? Do we find anything in the testing over the next 5 years? And that's going to happen twice, they say, before the northern pit is cleaned up. So, 10 years, they're telling us. Very concerned about that. And it's definitely something that we need to continue to keep an eye on. We have been pushing consistently for that timeline to be shortened. The EPA has even made comments in recent times that they are actually not comfortable with that timeline either. One of the other items that was really important to us that we saw get picked up by the EPA was the type of test that will be done on the material before it goes to the disposal facility, which will determine if it is going as hazardous or non-hazardous. And as of right now, the EPA has conceded that it would go as non-hazardous. But there's the caveat. It has to be tested before it goes. And so we saw a lot of inconsistencies in the different charts and the different tables in the design documents over what chemicals they were going to test for. And we noticed that many of the tables, they were not even, the responsible parties, were not even saying that they would test for dioxin. Well, that's the primary contaminant at this site. What do you mean you're not going to test for it? And it's the one that's the most toxic. So the EPA, reiterated in their comments that they have to require that both dioxins and furans are being tested for before the waste is disposed of. Yes?
Question, you were saying it had to be tested before it goes?
Yes.
Is that each individual load, or is that a sample of the area?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I believe it's each of those decision units. Each of those half-acre areas has 9 samples that will be taken from it. And so I'm not clear on if they're still looking at doing the combined analysis of the 9 per half acre, or if they're going to do individual. Victoria and Christy, do y'all recall, put you on the spot, do y'all recall if the EPA had commented on if each of the 9 samples in the decision units would be tested, or if it would be combined?
Are we talking about the sand separation area?
No, northern pit.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, same. I recall they were very specific for the sand separation area, but I don't recall seeing anything specific for the northern waste pit. Okay, so the concerns regarding barge strikes fast forward for a second to show you what we're talking about. So last time we talked pretty extensively about this barrier here that they're proposing to put just beyond the cofferdam, and it's going to wrap all the way from that northwest quadrant all the way around to Interstate 10. And that is intended to prevent a barge from hitting the site while it's under construction. And the EPA commented that it's actually unclear whether or not that fiberglass reinforcement structure would hold up against the potential barge strike. Yeah, what was alluded to in the document was that it would not. And if you recall, they said that it would be the same type of build as those dolphin structures we've all seen demolished over the years.
What about the bridge that they ran into last year?
Yeah.
Last year,
So it's actually interesting what's going on. TxDOT is finally getting more involved in this process, and TxDOT is saying, hey, maybe we can use that structure to protect the bridge and their construction. So there's an overlap with the timeline. If this takes 10 years, TxDOT is going to be building a bridge in the next 10 years. And either that TxDOT is saying, and that's the second point here, TxDOT is saying either we have to reconfigure what is called the BMP, the wall, the cofferdam wall, either we have to reconfigure it or consider that the outer structure staying there or being there in part to also protect the bridge construction, which isn't a half bad idea if it's designed to work. So the EPA points out here, and I'm going to read this word for word. The report notes that piles are not designed to absorb the full impact of a drifting barge moving at 3.14 feet per second or 2 miles per hour. The report states that a barge moving at that speed would break through the pile barrier, but with substantially dissipated energy. So, the only positive thing I have to say about that is that they're listening. They as in the EPA. They're not getting it done quick enough for any of us, but they are listening. All right, so the sand separation area. We're going to talk a little bit about some historical context here as well. And I might lean on my colleagues again. I do give a shout out later on in here, a photo and a story, but my team is spectacular and they all have technical backgrounds and have really been helping with the technical side of all of this, which is so refreshing for me to have folks to help dig through all of these documents. And the sand separation area turned into one that one of our team members really sunk her teeth into. So the sand separation in the record of decision was determined to basically be left there and to monitor the area and see if anything happens. So this right here is the sand separation area. This is the northern pit. So it's just northwest. And right here in the middle, there's a spot that has about 3,000 parts per trillion dioxin, and the most toxic type of all the dioxins. And that area, based on isotope dating, shows to be eroding. So we're losing it. It's going upstream, downstream, into the sediments, and who knows where. The rest of the area has significantly lower concentrations and has been showing to be gaining sediment. So that is why, well, the surrounding area is why the EPA decided to leave it there and monitor it over time. It's a fairly small area, and since the record of decision was signed, it was found that, oh wait, there is actually significantly higher concentrations of dioxin here than once understood. So typically in the Superfund process, when that happens, as it did at the northern pit, the additional waste that's found is addressed. But for some reason, at the sand separation area, the companies have I don't even know the right term, gone away with, but they have been able to convince the EPA that this is still a good plan, even though we know it's making its way out into our world. So we have continued to push back on that. Though the main fight here is that massive northern pit, this is still important. And one of the reasons why is because of the activity that takes place right on top of it with the barge facilities. All of the prop wash, all of the construction that goes on in the area, just get it out of there and know that it's safe for those activities. So the EPA commented that the boundaries of the sand separation area need to be better defined to allow those decision units, the areas they'll sample, be determined for the implementation of monitoring. More sampling, I do believe in this instance, is a good thing. It says currently the sand separation area boundary is not fixed and has changed during various stages of the remedial design development and since the record of decision was issued in 2017. I believe none of us should be okay with that. You know, I don't think our elected officials, I don't think anybody who cares about Galveston Bay, anybody who lives around here, should be okay to know that this waste is sitting there and it's moving around. EPA also stated that they do not agree with the proposal to use the arithmetic mean concentration of all 9 composite samples. So they broke this whole area up into 9 samples, and then we're going to run it as one, which means out of all of 9 samples, probably only 4 ounces of sediment would actually be put through the instrumentation in the lab. A lot of room for things to get looked over. I think this is my wordiest slide, so we will be through it. So more on this monitored natural recovery process. And everything here in italics is straight from the EPA. They say that the plan calls for a combination of monitoring and possible institutional controls to document if in fact monitoring and natural recovery is taking place, and if they're successfully implementing that as the remedy. So is the area continuing to bury the dioxin contamination, or is it continuing to erode? It's basically a science experiment. The monitoring plan should address items such as increased sampling for the initial period following the completion of the remedial action, with subsequent additional sampling triggered by events such as hurricanes, extreme flooding, and changes to the operational use of the area for fleeting activities. Additionally, the plan should also address institutional control requirements that limit the use of the area for fleeting activities, prohibitions on dredging, or limitations on recreational usage. So if that stuff is left there, there could be an institutional control put in place that says you can't actually have a barge fleeting facility on top of it, or maybe within even so many feet. Well, sure. But right, the Port of Houston Authority actually owns that area. They should care about this. The barge companies should care about this. I don't know if any of you are affiliated with any of the barge yards, but this is impacting the economy, it's impacting our lives, our environment, our river, our bay. We should all of us should be caring about this. So the last thing that I'll read off of this is, should the 5-year review determine MNR is not protective or performing as required, it may need to be reevaluated. So let's wait 5 more years, see if it's eroded by then, and then maybe decide what to do. It's not good enough for us. So this MNR, this monitoring and natural recovery process, the responsible parties picked a comparison site to say, here is an example of where this has been effective. And when my team member brought that to me, I went, oh boy, this is great, because the last time they tried this, I was in San Diego, California. I just happened to be there, visiting my brother who was in the Coast Guard, and I get this report that the responsible parties were comparing an area called Convair Lagoon, which was directly adjacent to the Coast Guard base. I was picking my brother up that afternoon for base, and I said, let's go next door. We're gonna go look at this lagoon. And he's like, we've always wondered what that was. Yeah, like, tell me about it. And they had no idea. So back then, when they were heavily trying to push their agenda for containment of this site, they picked Convair Lagoon as the example of a place that was successful for containing PCB contamination. No comparison. This is the lagoon. It is off of the bay here in San Diego, and it has land on both sides. And it's just literally this little inlet here. It's about this shallow, teeny tiny little waves, nice gentle slope of the beach face, no comparison to the northern waste pit in the San Jacinto River. And it was just beautiful that I just happened to be there when this was announced, because I could actually go get my eyes on it and see there was no comparison, and there should be no consideration to containment of the northern pit and this area here. So in the design, when we realized that they were using a place in Lavaca Bay as a comparison for what they would like to happen at the sand separation area, my team member really sunk their teeth in. Dug through tons of EPA records, actually met with environmental activists and fishermen, like generations of fishermen from the area in Lavaca Bay who are very familiar with this site and have fought for a cleanup of this site for years. And the first thing I want to point out, there's a couple of really big things that just stuck out to me. The Lavaca Bay site has been closed since 1988. And when I mean closed, I'm saying it's been a restricted area. There are not fleeting operations in the vicinity. It is a closed area. So this is an outline of the closed area at the Lavaca Bay site. And all of this in here is the mercury contaminated area. It's a pretty nasty and big site. These were old mercury and I forget the other contaminant, but very toxic ponds here. And so first off, right off the bat, again, screams, EPA, are you looking into what they are actually saying is a successful example? And so we provided the EPA with a very thorough review and comparison of the two sites and how there are some things that are similar and most things that are not. But the remedial action objectives for the waste pits is to remediate the affected material. Excuse me. For the Lavaca Bay site, it's to reduce the levels of mercury. So there's a very big difference in fully remediating the source material and reducing what's there. So what's next? The EPA is coming to town. We are actually going to be meeting with them next month in a community advisory meeting. at Harris County Pollution Control. And then they're going to have a community meeting in the beginning of January. So January 7th, they will be here from 6 to 7:45. So please, if you have concerns or questions, share them with me, however, email, call, tell me tonight, or with my team. We want to be able to represent your concerns and your questions when we go into the meeting at Pollution Control with them, and also to try to make sure that when they come here in January and present to the community, I mean, I hope they have a big decision to tell us, first of all, but that way they can be prepared to already know what you guys care about hearing from them. We do have a petition tonight that we can circulate, and if my team, whenever y'all have a chance, will circulate. I don't know, y'all are all busy. And so we can circulate that. It is a very basic petition because I just feel like we have really counted them with the technical for so long. Surely we've got to be at critical mass here. We're going to have multiple important updates in the coming weeks. One of them being hopefully an announcement from the health department. And some other ones that I look forward to being able to discuss with you all. So please stay tuned to the emails. Let me know your concerns that we can represent directly to the EPA. And a shout out to my team. We took a field trip, staff day, and we went and ate at the Cuban place across from Exxon, and we went to the Wetlands Center. And, you know, some of our team members are not from here. Actually, most of them are not from here.
Many of us are.
Yeah, you're from Liberty County, but so most of our team is not, you know, historically from here. So we took a trip to go learn about the local habitats and the local critters and ecology. So shout out to all of you. Thank you so much for everything y'all do to make this organization run. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of our children for being so well behaved during all of this.
What you drug them with?
They're coloring. Barbecue. Okay, all right, questions.
Just understand,
Yes, Ben.
what about the waste pits on West Galveston Bay?
Yeah, great question. So I actually don't have an update on that. He asked about the waste pits on West Galveston Bay. So we're actually doing a little study right now and on another site on Galveston Bay, and may potentially be then digging in that area. But it's pretty quiet. I haven't heard anything since Hurricane Harvey.
There's a massive amount of pits there.
Oh yeah,
Amazing how much.
yeah.
Right on the bay.
Right across from Jamaica Bay, or Jamaica Beach. I mean,
I
yeah.
fished there.
It's pretty wild.
So speaking of Hurricane Harvey, the cleanup is about to get started in Crosby, and actually part of that'd be Harris County, part of Liberty County, and part of Chambers County. 7-mile radius there. After Arkema, their big explosion that they had during Harvey. So the dioxins are all in all those people's yards, so they're going to have to go through and scrape all of those yards. They finally got the lawsuit settled, and they've got a remediation company to come in and come and close that.
Well, I had no idea about that. Have you guys been covering it in the paper? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but that was in the start career papers.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was talking about the explosion after Harvey at Arkema, and that a cleanup is going to begin there around that site in the community. So, wow.
Yeah. It was a 7-mile radius.
7-mile radius, wow.
From Arkema out.
Wow.
So they tried to encourage as many people. The problem is they can clean up somebody's property, with their permission, but the neighbor doesn't get theirs cleaned up. They still have
So how do you prove that you're, I just bought a house in Crosby 5 years ago, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. Oh, yep, thank you, Rachel. I know I was gonna forget. I have 2 more things to tell y'all. In the back, we have our memory board. Some of you have brought photos over the years to put on the memory board of loved ones who we have lost. We want to get that going again. We know that there's just a lot of heartache, a lot of loss, unfortunately, around. And so we brought these cards and some pens. If you want to leave a sentiment, or even if it's a note to us, something you'd like to add and send to us later, please do. We would love to do a little bit of what we can to keep the memory of our community alive. And the drawing. So those of you that RSVP'd should have gotten a raffle ticket. Did everybody who RSVP'd get a raffle ticket? A drawing ticket. Sorry, not a raffle, drawing ticket. Yes.
Will Tech Stop build a bridge without the removal of the waste pit? They will?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
So I'm assuming they won't build where the pit's at, they'll have to be moving.
One second. Okay, how many tickets am I drawing?
Enough for the
7.
signature and the.
Okay. Carolyn, yes.
Oh, I have a question. TechStop is doing core sampling in prep. Is there any chance that we're going to see the results of what they find?
I'm not sure, but I'll ask. And we can always put in a Public Information Act request. But it would be easier if they just shared it. So I'll ask. Rachel, please remind me to ask about the core samples. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. You're okay. Thank All right. Ticket 214004.
Oh my God. I told you.
We got one.
All right. Rachel, if you want to bring a
plant?
Yeah, go for it.
You want me to go get it?
All right. Ticket 214018.
Jackie.
You? Yes. All right. Awesome. Rachel, we'll get you a soup can. 214023.
Say it again.
214023. Going once. Going twice.
Let me go find it over there.
214023. I wonder if it's my mom.
Oh, that's right, her ticket.
I'll buy her a plant.
Checking for her with one, so.
They have,
Yeah. Okay, so we have 2. All right.
they have her ticket.
Oh, they do. 214007. All right. 214014. All right, Roger.
All right. Living life.
214010. This is your mom.
All right. Oh, it's my mom?
It's your mom.
All right, thanks, bud.
I don't know where she's at. I guess
214005.
Miss Sherry.
All right. Oh, see a couple. Okay, one more, right?
It's a water filter pitcher. One ticket with me.
214016. All right, Miss Bobo. All right, fun. thank y'all again for being here. I appreciate all of you and all your time.